New exclusive videos are waiting for you on Boosty. You can support me and follow the link to subscribe to Boosty. Enjoy watching. Description: What if Naruto can no longer bear the constant scorn of those around him and eventually breaks? And what if at that turning point he meets one of the legendary three Sannin? And no, it's not Jiraiya. Chapter 10. Client from Iwagakure. Days followed one another with an incomprehensible monotony. They were so monotonous that some people found it unbearable to breathe from the boredom that had washed over them with such a degree. The mood was colorless, just like these very days spent on missions given to the 7th team by the top of the village. D-rank missions. D-rank missions were not to everyone's liking. For example, Sasuke and Naruto. After graduating from the academy, they were not expecting orders to catch runaway pets or water flowers in an unfamiliar grandmother's garden, but something where they could improve their abilities through risk and work. They were not only angry about their situation, but also quite annoyed, because they clearly felt that they were wasting their time. But as for Haruno, she was not embarrassed at all. Sakura was pleased that neither she nor Sasuke were put in danger, were not ordered to kill, kidnap, and in any way were not forced to fall into wild fear for her and Uchiha's life. In addition, she was not psychologically prepared for scenes with blood and open flesh. The third Hokage and Irika, like Kakashi, had no intention of raising the mission rank, and for several weeks now the 7th team had been obediently carrying out tasks for newbies, without saying a word about finally being given something more serious. After another completed job of searching for a lost pet of some wealthy resident of the village, the 7th team returned back to the headquarters, where Irika, the third, and a couple of other shinobi were sitting. The customer of the mission was a plump man from head to toe in expensive clothes and hung with gold jewelry on his fingers, wrists and neck, whose eyes widened beyond belief at the sight of the guys who came, and his lips spread to his ears in a joyful smile. "Oh, Sunare! Sunare, it's you!" the man cried out, almost crying, running to meet the team. He snatched his pet from Naruto's hands and hugged him tightly. Everyone watched this scene of love, waiting for this man to pay for their work and leave the room. After 2 minutes of happiness, the customer fulfilled the mental wishes of those present and headed for the exit with tearful eyes. "Well, finally," Naruto muttered as the door slammed shut. "You've done well," praised the third, smiling warmly. "So, your next assignments?" Hiruzen looked down at the papers, lighting his pipe, and said, "You'll have to babysit the elder's grandson, then go shopping in the neighboring village, then wash the Hokage's face, and help a woman who lives with the harvest." "No! No! And no!" Uzumaki waved his hands negatively to the sides. "These are too easy tasks. Give us something tougher." "Tougher? We are not nannies to sit with some elder's grandson." "What an idiot!" Sakura felt a shameful heat in front of the Leaf Leader. The adult sighed wearily, having long expected such an attack from Naruto. And only Uchiha agreed with Uzumaki's words. "Idiot! You're still just a newbie." Irika couldn't take it anymore and stood up from his chair with a scream, causing the furniture to fall behind him, turning over on its side. Everyone starts with simple tasks, gradually moving on to more difficult ones. "But we only get the worst missions!" Naruto shouted back. "Quiet down!" Kakashi slapped his student on the back of the head, the effect of which worked instantly. "What? What? Am I wrong?" Uzumaki was indignant again, and immediately received an answer to his question from Hatake. "No, you are wrong. No one can let you go on a serious mission. You are all just genin, and when you carry out a mission, for example, of rank B, you will definitely encounter strong opponents along the way, with whom you will not be able to compete." "Why is that?" Sasuke put in his 2 words discontentedly. "Who else couldn't compete?" Naruto was actually a little offended. Kakashi is absolutely right. The D-rank tasks are just for you. The Hokage wanted to close this question, but Uzumaki objected again. "No, he's wrong. Did we do badly in the last test with the bells? What are we bad at, or maybe where did we go wrong? Then why can't they give us?" Naruto was interrupted by the third's quiet and unexpected laughter. "What? Did I say something funny?" "Fine. Okay?" everyone asked at the same time. What? Good? Sakura asked timidly. If that's what you want. Hiruzen began intriguingly. I'll give you a C-rank task. Everyone looked down at the third in surprise. He lit his pipe and asked, Are you satisfied? Is it true? Sakura couldn't believe it. Did Naruto's whims really work on him? Uzumaki let out a joyful, hooray, and jumped off the floor a couple of times, but he was quickly calmed by Hataki's hand squeezing his shoulder, urging him to stand still. You will have to protect one person, explained the third. Yes? And who is it? Who? Daimyo? Princess? Calm down, Naruto. I'll introduce her to you now. The Hokage continued. Please come in. The shoji door was pushed aside, and a blonde girl with green eyes and a face covered in freckles appeared near the doorway. From her appearance, one could guess that she was the same age as Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura. Who are these? She asked in a high, pleasant voice instead of greeting. Are these the ones who will protect me? There was a clear note of disappointment in her tone. Yes, the Hokage answered. Of them, only this one is worthy of protecting me. The girl nodded at Kakashi, not hesitating to offend anyone. You can tell he's experienced and these. I'm afraid to even imagine. What? What are you talking about? We are professionals. Naruto got angry at the girl's words. We are not some second-rate shinobi. Yes, yes. You are worse. It can be seen from you. The impudence of the words and their tone sent the entire team into a whirlpool of irritation. Naruto actually felt a little angry. If it weren't for Orochimaru-sensei's plan, he wouldn't have let that girl babble about him being second-rate. Don't worry. They're actually good ninja. Hiruzen tried to remove the girl's displeasure so that there wouldn't be any quarrels between her and the boys in the future. And if they did arise, they wouldn't be so long and stormy. The girl crossed her arms over her chest, clicked her tongue and began to look appraisingly at her bodyguards, and then, reluctantly introduced herself. My name is Yui Takan, and I am from the land of stone. The village is Iwagakure. You are to bring me there safely within these 2 days. Is that clear? She asked sharply. I hope you will protect me well until you bring me back home. The members of the 7th team looked at each other. The gates of the village opened to let the shinobi on their way. Kakashi treated the picky Yui quite well, which could not be said about his students. Sakura's feminine instinct told her not to stand on ceremony with the client and not to allow her, Sasuke, or even Naruto to be insulted. Especially since what if this girl suddenly sets her sights on Sasuke? After all, who knows what kind of devils are in her head? As for Uchiha, his perception of the client was slightly less acute than Haruno's. He never liked people with the same character as Takan, and that was precisely why he didn't like her right away, but he was ready to put up with it, hoping that this mission would bring him at least some benefit in terms of fighting. And Naruto's attitude, or rather Naruto's real attitude, was quite passive, not taking into account the fact that he was ready to wipe her nose for daring to almost directly insult him as a weakling. And so, what she said about the 7th team, what she said about the Leaf in general or could tell about herself, did not bother him at all, because there was no interest in it. Wow, this is my first time leaving the village, Uzumaki said, looking around. The team walked slowly, and the day passed quickly. Bright sunlight pushed everyone to sleep, and the lingering singing of birds, a fresh light wind and the rustling of leaves all contributed to this. Silence hung over, pleasantly diluted by the sounds of nature. The silhouettes of strangers were barely visible from the treetops. They were staring at the girl and the rest of the team, waiting for the moment to attack. Tell me. Hataki turned to Yui. It wasn't you who ordered your escort to your native village? No. They are my parents, Takan answered proudly. We came to your village as guests, to visit my parents' relatives and old friends. I stayed a couple of extra days to hang out with the guys I knew longer, on my parents' advice, and now the day of my return has come. They ordered this mission in advance so that I wouldn't return home alone. I come from a wealthy family, and it's quite possible that I could have been attacked on the way. When are we leaving? The shinobi asked with effort, flickering like a shadow behind the treetops. Step. Step. One more step. Naruto turned his head to the left suspiciously and looked at Kakashi, who looked back at him as if confirming his train of thought. Takan, Sasuke said thoughtfully, recalling information about this well-known clan. I've heard about your family jewels. Uchiha's sentence was interrupted by the unexpected landing right in front of his nose of an unfamiliar man with a black mask on his face, from under which only eyes sparkling with malice were visible. Next to the others, more of the same strangers appeared and, judging by the emblem on their protectors, they were ninjas from the stone. The shinobi around Naruto and Sakura with Sasuke simply stood in a stance foreshadowing an attack, thinking that this action would intimidate them enough, because they were only children. But with Kakashi, one of the men did not hesitate and pressed a kunai firmly to his throat. What the? Yui blurted out. I knew it. Protect me. We'll leave quietly and peacefully if you give us the girl. The stranger hissed into the back of Hataki's head. What? Takan was indignant. Kakashi chuckled emotionlessly. Why do you need her? The kunai pressed harder against his throat, releasing a light stream of blood that stained the fabric on his neck. We won't touch any of you, just give her to us. Sakura froze in horror. Will he kill him? Will he kill him? The bloody neck, pressed against the kunai blade, suddenly disappeared, leaving behind a light smoke. A clone? When did he manage to do that? Uchiha raised his eyebrows. Sakura, at her own risk, rushed towards Yui to protect her with herself, while Naruto and Sasuke simultaneously defended themselves from the attackers. A couple of deft movements, and Uzumaki was able to dodge the opponent's swords and, allowing the enemy to approach him at close range, he focused a blow on the pain point in the chin area, from which he flew back a good 10 meters after colliding with Naruto's fist. Having eliminated the enemy, Uzumaki instantly felt another attacker from behind. Not having time to react and strike earlier, Naruto was forced to block the man's attack with his clasped hands covering his face, but then freely defended himself with kunai, fastening their blades against the blades of the enemy's kunai. Sasuke at that time, jumping back meter by meter, did not allow the shinobi of the stone to hit him with shurikens. Having made another jump, he stopped for a second in a perpendicular position on the tree trunk and sharply pushed off from it in order to hit the enemy. The latter had in his arsenal long chains hung with explosive tags, which at that moment were planning to embrace the Uchiha. Sasuke, having taken out a couple of kunai, threw them towards the enemy's weapon, leading it out of the laid route so that it would not catch up with him, and when one side of the chain still almost reached him, he managed to grab it and pull it towards himself in order to deprive the enemy of a cold weapon. But he had no intention of giving it up so quickly, and wrapping his wrists in chains, he stood in a stance, spreading his legs wide and squatting down to pull the Uchiha towards him. Naruto mercilessly hit the weak points known to him from Kabuto's words, such as neck, jaw, ribs, to make it easier to eliminate the enemy. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw that Sasuke had fallen into the metal clutches of the chains and was flying towards his opponent's fist, and Sakura, with a desperate face, froze, clutching a kunai in her hands, in front of two ninja who rushed towards her, protecting Yui. At one point, Kakashi appeared again out of nowhere and, grabbing the girls, dragged them up into the foliage. Before the stone shinobi had time to hit Sasuke, Naruto quickly grabbed his already disabled opponent and threw him into the Uchiha's opponent with a jerk. When he fell to the ground, Sasuke quickly caught himself in the air, already wrapping the chains around his wrists. And landing behind the lying ninja, he immediately threw his enemy from behind onto the ground in front of him with a swing. Uchiha and Uzumaki then looked around. It's clean here, Sasuke said, looking expectantly at Naruto. Kakashi-sensei dragged them up. Uzumaki immediately understood the silent question and pointed his finger at the treetops. When both of them looked up, two shinobi fell down next to them in a disabled state. And on the opposite side, Kakashi landed with Sakura and Yui. You did a great job. Hatake praised the boys. Well done. And you too, Sakura. How are you, Sasuke-kun? Haruno cried out with burning excitement. It's fine. We're fine, Sakura-chan. Naruto scratched the back of his head, closing his eyes. Yui looked at Uchiha and Uzumaki in admiration. How skillfully and confidently they defended themselves. How bravely they protected her. How skillfully these two attacked. It was breathtaking. Haruno was standing in the same state now. If she had previously been sure that Sasuke was a genius and could cope with any difficulties, then she was not mistaken on this score, but the fact that Naruto would not be able to do anything at all in a critical situation, then her theory suddenly and miserably failed. Seeing how her former loser classmate, who did not know how to even use a weapon a year ago, began to skillfully handle it now, her heart simply sank. As if a completely different person had recently been in battle in front of her. A completely different Naruto. And Sasuke, although he was busy with his opponent, still managed to see how his blonde teammate dealt with the enemy. He already thought that he needed to finish off the shinobi who attacked him as soon as possible, in order to quickly come to the aid of Uzumaki. But what a surprise overtook him when, contrary to his assumptions, Naruto saved him. Saved Naruto. Saved. Sasuke shook his head sharply. Well, what kind of save? He helped a little. He was just a little unlucky. It was the wrong opportunity, the wrong moment. The thought that Sasuke would ever get a handout from Naruto filled him with dull irritation. He gloomily drilled the smiling Uzumaki with a cold gaze, but his face did not reflect any anger, because he was able to hide it well. Kakashi, who had also heard about Uzumaki's ineptitude and inability to study, saw the scene of the fight with the stone ninja and his eyes widened in amazement. Questions stuck in his head. When did he manage to learn these techniques? Who taught him this? On top of that, some of the fighting techniques Naruto used were not even taught at the academy. Thank you? Thank you? Thank you very much. Yui ran up to both boys and hugged them. Hey! Sakura called her back in a rough voice. And Hitaki began to pick up the stone shinobi from the ground in order to tie them to a tree for further interrogation. While they were waiting for the enemies to wake up, the team sat down near a nearby tree opposite and fortified themselves with the food they had brought with them in their backpacks. The slapping method didn't work on the strangers, and Kakashi didn't do anything else against them. Why? They had nowhere to rush. And it was just about time for dinner. Why exactly did they attack us? Yui asked herself a sad question. Why exactly shinobi from the native village? Oh, Sensei, one of them is already waking up, Sakura noticed. A black-haired, thin man of about 30 blinked many times, trying to open his eyelids and focus his vision. Eh? Well, who are you? Hitaki got straight to the point. The stranger did not answer. He lowered his head and stared at the grass. I don't advise you to go further. Yui visibly tensed up after hearing this. Why? Kakashi frowned. The shinobi of the rock, after waiting a few seconds, looked back up and said, Death lies ahead. Huh? Haruno was scared. What does he mean? If you go towards Awadakure, the shinobi continued, groaning for some reason, you will definitely be killed. Cough cough. They won't let you in. They won't let you in there. Why? Kakashi asked. Why do you say they won't let us in there? The sound of matches igniting barely reached his ears. Hitaki immediately realized what it was. Grab Yui-san and run. The 7th team immediately carried out the command and rushed into the forest. 1 second. 2. Explosion! Yui screamed at the suddenness of the incident. Everyone felt the heat on their backs, which quickly spread through the air. Stopping at a safe distance, the team looked back at the place where the enemies were sitting. Explosive seals? Sakura asked Kakashi. Yes. Takan shivered even more. Not only were they attacked by ninja from their native village, but they were also clearly not some bandits, but truly experienced shinobi, seriously determined to kill her. Let's go. No! Hitaki Yui stopped him, crying. He said. She burst into tears even more. Yui-san, calm down! Haruno was at a loss, not knowing what exactly to advise the scared-as-hell client, and placed her hand on her shoulder. Yui shook her hand sharply. No! She breathed heavily. Didn't you hear what he told us? Death lies ahead. Death. Naruto clicked his tongue angrily and said to console him, Yui-san, you don't have to be afraid. You saw how we protected you. I don't want to go home, I'm scared. Are you all stupid or something? Takan didn't have enough anger for everyone. Well, I never said that we would go to your village. Yui looked at Kakashi incomprehensibly. we will return back to our village. Ah, her fit of hysteria quickly stopped. Okay, she began to wipe her wet face with her sleeves. I agree. But how can we just turn around and leave? We have to warn her parents about the attack. Sakura turned to Hataki. Yes, but we don't have the opportunity for that yet. Especially since night will soon fall. We need to find shelter so as not to become easy prey for the enemy. Something tells me that you and I will meet someone else. Well then, let's go. Naruto turned around and walked forward with the others. The boys walked ahead of Kakashi. Hataki glanced at the almost invisible scratch on his finger, but then he had to stop walking because of a sharp headache. Weakness suddenly hit his legs, then his arms and chest. Are you okay, Kakashi-sensei? Haruno noticed something was wrong. Hataki only listened to Sakura's background voice for the last time and fainted. Chapter 11. Preparation. I found it. Uzumaki appeared behind the trees after a long absence. Where? Sakura's desire to hear the answer flared up to the point of incredible. There, not far away. A small hut. The old woman living there said that we could stay with her. Naruto informed the entire team, finally reaching her at the same time. Really? How good? Haruno breathed a sigh of relief. Come on, lift him up. Yui stood up from her knees and pointed at Kakashi, who was lying next to her, Sakura and Sasuke. Don't rush. Naruto smiled. Everyone looked at him with confusion, but then noticed the appearance of a young man, about 18 years old, running along the same path as he had a minute ago. When he slowed down next to Uzumaki, Naruto introduced him. This is the grandson of that old lady. She said that he is mute, but understands our speech perfectly. And she also said that he will help us drag Kakashi-sensei to her house. Without further ado, due to fatigue, everyone trusted both Naruto and this guy and allowed the latter to place Hataki on his back. Afterwards, they hurried to head to the temporary shelter. Cold water flowed in streams from the maroon cloth that the owner of the hut, Azumi Matsuo, was clutching in her small, old hands. She carefully placed the cloth on Kakashi's forehead, as she had felt a slight heat on him with her hand earlier. How long has he been like this? Azumi asked. About 30 minutes, Sakura informed uncertainly. And why? We don't know. Sasuke answered this time, standing against the wall and crossing his arms over his chest. Oh, it's been a long time since I've used medical techniques, and I can't remember anything now, Matsuo muttered. There's nothing serious with him, right? Naruto asked after a few seconds. I don't know. That remains to be seen. Azumi looked at Kakashi's visual condition and concluded that there were no signs of severe physical pain, as his face did not wrinkle, there was no mumbling, his body did not convulse, his skin color was normal, and even sweat did not flow from him. Matsuo hesitantly resorted to her clan's long-unused medical jutsu. Her own health was not what it used to be, so it was quite difficult for her to use this technique. But Azumi still decided to try, because she could not leave people without help. Her hands were filled with green light when concentrating her chakra, which immediately attracted Sakura's admiring gaze. Matsuo placed her palms on Kakashi's chest and closed her eyes. Judging by their faces, the guys did not understand what exactly she was trying to do. By placing her palms on the patient's body, she could see the state of the person's internal organs with her chakra. This inspection was interrupted by her very soon after activation due to impotence, since it was difficult to control the process of Azumi as it should be, as she expected. But despite this, she was still able to see what she needed. The internal organs are not seriously affected. However, I saw traces of sleeping pills in the body. What? Sleeping pills? Yui was taken aback. It seems I was wrong about him. How could he take sleeping pills when he knew he was supposed to protect me? Sakura's eyes darted across the floor, remembering. Dragging her and Yui away, Kakashi-sensei climbed up the tree branches, jumping from one to another. At one point, unexpectedly for Haruno and Takan, he threw them into the air, from which they screamed in fear, turned around, also in zero gravity, and caught one of the enemies by surprise, literally flying at full speed at the sensei. Having received a deafening hand-to-hand blow to the jaw, the enemy changed the direction of his path back to the ground. But before the teacher led the second enemy to the ground in the same way, only this time with his foot, he managed to get an almost invisible scratch from one of the needles, controlled by the enemy with a fishing line. After that, he caught Sakura and Yui and returned back to the boys. A scratch! Haruno realized as she remembered that fight and then saw the scratch on her teacher's middle finger. When he threw us up in the fight, I saw a shinobi from the stone throw needles at him. Sensei fought them off with kunai, but apparently he still got a scratch from one of them. Azumi took Hataki's hand in her own and used her medical jutsu again. The green light touched Kakashi's hand and Matsuo saw a clear picture of the patient's blood. It looks like a strong medicine, made from special herbs from Iwagakure. Yes. That's right. Iwagakure. There are special greenhouses there for growing these very plants. These herbs act on the brain within 2 minutes of being ingested. It's not a lethal drug, but it does raise the body temperature. Your teacher is fine. He'll wake up the next day. Haruno was amazed that her grandmother, despite her advanced age, managed to take just one look at the sensei's internal organs and immediately understand and explain everything. It seemed that in her youth, this woman knew much more than she could tell now. So, if they're warning to give you up voluntarily, Sasuke reluctantly turned to Yui. Hadn't worked, then they would have put sensei to sleep and, as they thought, would have easily taken you with them, not taking into account that we could also pose a significant problem for them? Apparently so. Sakura agreed with his thought. I wonder why they didn't use poison instead of sleeping pills? Naruto thought. Apparently, their only goal was to take and kill our client, and not us. Sasuke continued his reasoning. If it weren't so, they wouldn't have asked to give her up voluntarily, but would have blown themselves up right away. But at the last moment, when they were tied to a tree, they realized that they couldn't handle the matter, and decided to resort to killing us as well, activating explosive seals on their bodies. But I wonder why they need you. Sakura turned to Yui. How should I know why these idiots needed me? She snapped, and then turned to the mistress of the house. Grandma, do you have anything to eat? I haven't eaten anything since morning. Azumi smiled warmly and invited the little guests to the table. Yui decided to distract herself from the current situation by inviting them to a proper dinner. She had been attacked too many times lately. A chill was coming through the poorly sealed window frames and into the wall, which had noticeably changed the temperature of the room overnight. Feeling the discomfort of the chill, Kakashi's consciousness was torn from his dreams, after which his eyes opened and stared aimlessly at the gray ceiling. He reluctantly turned his head to the left, feeling pain in his neck, because he had slept in the same position for the past 9 hours, and saw Sasuke, Naruto, Sakura, and Yui sleeping next to him. Hatake felt a general weakness that for some reason he could not ignore. Leaning on the floor, he tried to get up, but even with such a slight rise, his head began to hurt again, as if it had been hit with a hammer. Moaning silently, he lay back down on the futon. At the sight of the sleeping boys, he immediately realized that they had found shelter during his blackout, which could not help but please him once again. Thoughts involuntarily flashed through his aching head. Maybe send them to the exam? For the Chunin exam? Especially since they're planning to hold it soon. Echoes of Sakura's awakening sounded. Kakashi-sensei. Are you awake? She barely squeezed out of herself, still half asleep. Yes. Those ninjas put me to sleep? Hatake asked rhetorically, in a tone of cheerfulness, or rather, even ease. Sakura just nodded positively. I knew it. Kakashi stared at the ceiling again. Wake up the boys. Haruno's back left the warm futon, and then she saw her comrades sleeping peacefully next to her. It was as if they were both having the same nightmare, because their facial expressions were equally tense and serious. This made Sakura chuckle with a touching smile. Why? Are we going to the village right now? Haruno asked without looking at the teacher. No. We have to wait here for a while. This is a hotel, right? Kakashi's own judgment was interrupted by a question. But he immediately remembered where the entire team was at the moment after the battle. The nearest inn would have been far from this place. So his question immediately lost its meaning. No. One woman, Azumi, or rather, grandmother, allowed us to stay with her. She also told us that we can stay here as long as we need. Yeah. Hataki assented understandingly. This granny is a doctor. She said that you were injected with a sleeping pill using needles, but it is not life-threatening. That's what I figured, Kakashi sighed tiredly. My head is still splitting. The fact that this woman allowed me to stay here longer is good. I'll finally come to my senses to be ready for any attacks. And you'll train in the meantime. Now we know that serious guys are hunting for Yui-san. So your training is necessary. Okay. But, Kakashi turned his gaze to Sakura. And who are these people? Criminals? It doesn't look like it. The emblems on the protectors weren't crossed out. Of course, that doesn't guarantee that they weren't criminals, but still. And their skill level wasn't up to the level of Jonin. I think they were Chunin. Chunin, and someone hired them to kill Yui-san. As soon as I feel better, we'll immediately return to our village, because the rank of this mission has already crossed category C, and maybe even B. We don't know who exactly is hunting her. It's quite possible that we might run into some S-rank criminal. With each sentence Haruno spoke, his eyes widened in fear. Seeing this, Hataki quickly added as a reassurance, "But don't be afraid, Sakura. You have your friends and me with you, and besides, we're not heading to Iwagakure anymore. That shinobi said that death awaits us ahead, which means there would probably be someone else guarding us at the borders of the country, only many times stronger than those guys. When they see that neither we nor those hired ninja are approaching the country, they'll think that we're all dead and their mission is accomplished." Yes, and what if they decide to make sure of this and send someone to make sure that we are all really dead? That's exactly why I need to fully recover, and you need to start training. So go ahead, wake up Naruto and Sasuke. Why yes. Haruno listened to everything and began to carry out the order. Well, why so early? Uzumaki complained, squinting from the sun. We don't have time for your complaints, we have to work. Kakashi appeared at the front door of the hut. Today I'll teach you how to walk on trees. Huh? Haruno and Uchiha were surprised, which made Naruto grin. What do you mean? Sakura asked. You must learn to circulate chakra in any point of the body. In this case, in the legs, to rise to any surface. If you master this, you will be able to easily learn various new and complex techniques. This is one of the basic techniques, such as cloning or the substitution technique, so absolutely everyone should know this technique, Hataki interpreted somewhat strictly. Remember, to perform it, you need to clearly concentrate chakra in your legs, but do not overdo it, otherwise the trunk under your feet may crack, and if you do not apply enough force, then you simply will not hold on and fall down. Look! Kakashi demonstratively folded his hands in a certain gesture and walked towards the nearest tree. For Sakura and Sasuke, it seemed to be a whole incident, but for Naruto, it was just an empty show. Having reached the nearest massive branch and stood on it, Hataki addressed everyone. That's how it should work out for you. This training will help you control your chakra more effectively than you could before. You won't waste energy, or not use it in the right amount. Is that clear? Hi! They all answered at once. The team members each chose a tree, one next to the other, and began to concentrate chakra in their legs according to Kakashi's instructions. Mixing the energy of the body and the energy of the spirit, the streams of the resulting chakra flowed down to the feet. Use the kunai to mark your limit of how far you've gone so that you can overcome it the next time you climb, Hataki advised. Yes, Uzumaki blurted out in his thoughts out of boredom. Everyone, as one, threw their hands back and moved towards the trees, trying to walk along the trunk at full speed. Sasuke pushed off after about 5 steps, doing a backwards flip jump, but not before he managed to leave a boundary with the tip of his kunai, and then, having landed, he looked at it. The Uchiha had to retreat, since the flow of energy in his legs was too abundant, and, as Kakashi had warned, the trunk could not withstand it. Sasuke looked at Naruto's progress out of interest. To his surprise and painfully rapid heartbeat, the Uzumaki was able to reach the whole middle of the tree, but then his legs slid along the trunk, and Naruto fell down. Yes, what the? Uchiha got angry. His eyes filled with angry sparks, ready to grow into a whole fire. His hands suddenly began to tremble from the flaring desire to surpass Uzumaki's achievement. At what point in time did the loser from the academy start learning something so quickly? At what point in time did he suddenly become so good at fighting? At what point in time did he become so physically strong that he could throw a chunin aside or knock out people several decades older than him? Although those shinobi did not have impressive muscles, rather they were distinguished by significant thinness, but still, wow! I ran so much! Uzumaki rejoiced, specifically drawing Sasuke's attention, even though he knew that he had already seen the successful result of his first attempt. Well done, Naruto! Kakashi praised him, after which the Uchiha snorted contemptuously and turned away. Hey! A distant voice was heard somewhere above. Everyone looked up at the same time and saw a happy and smiling Sakura sitting on one of the very last branches of the tree. Wow, Sakura! It seems like you are the one who can control chakra the best. After you I would put Naruto. This result hit Sasuke's pride hard. He clenched his fingers, gathering a handful of earth into his fist. He immediately stood up and tried to climb the tree again. Almost simultaneously, Naruto began to try again. Kakashi and Sakura noticed the rivalry that had arisen between them, because it was difficult not to notice Sasuke's angry jerks, Naruto not lagging behind him, and the numerous glances between them. After half a day of training, Naruto pretended that he couldn't reach the limit that Sakura had reached yet, and at the same time allowed the Uchiha to catch up with him in results. Sasuke was overcome by the inspiring mania to overtake. Not to let himself be caught up. After all, he couldn't let him surpass him. Grabbing his right side, the Uchiha rose to his feet. Oh no! Sakura worried. She saw perfectly well that he was exhausted and needed to rest for at least 15 minutes. Since Haruno had reached the heights, earlier than everyone else, literally and figuratively, in today's training, she decided to meditate, sitting very close to the others. Naruto sat, leaning against a tree and catching his breath. Kakashi sat on a bench near the porch of the hut and read some unfamiliar book with a turquoise cover and a picture of a man sitting on one knee. Seeing how Sasuke hobbled to the place from which he ran to the tree, tears began to flow into Sakura's mint eyes. Why was he straining himself so much? Was he so afraid of not being ready for the next fight? Or was the competition in the race with Naruto egging him on so much? But contrary to her expectations, Sasuke walked further and further from that very place. What did he want to do? Why did he have to extend the running distance? Or was he walking towards her right now? Her heart started beating faster than usual, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment, the color of her hair, because the Uchiha's black eyes seemed to be fixed on Sakura. She didn't even notice, due to the inarticulate flow of her thoughts, that Sasuke had already been standing next to her for a minute and asking something. Sakura, he addressed her, as if meaning, wake up already! Eh? So? What? Haruno didn't understand. Can you tell me how you got to the top so quickly? Sakura's face stretched out in amazement. He just asked for her help. Her advice? That can't be right. Naruto, on the other hand, was closely watching their actions and was not going to interfere in the conversation. Haruno said something to Uchiha, to which he nodded and audibly, with heavy sincerity, thanked him. Naruto stood up from his place when Sasuke returned back to the place where he had started running, and then the attempts to climb began again by both of them. The weather in Iwagakure was very different from the border of the Land of Fire. While there it was clear and sunny with fairly hot summer air, here a fierce and piercing wind raged, scattering some trash and small stones across the streets. The hanging cloth signs of eateries and other small establishments turned inside out due to the air element, and hit the roofs to which they were attached. The sky was dark blue, almost black, from which a terrifying thunder could be heard. But there was still no rain. People sat in their houses, not daring to show themselves from their hearths. Thanks to the massive stone walls, even a light breeze did not dare to penetrate inside. The owner of one of these fortresses stood near the window and looked at a framed photograph of his family. He looked with annoyance at the shinobi subordinates kneeling before him and burst out in a sorrowful voice in displeasure. How is that possible? The squad leader began timidly. We were informed by a spy who was assigned to monitor the girl's murder. He reported that she and the ninja guarding her were saved and are now living in some woman's house. The owner exhaled hoarsely and closed his eyes. Before they get back to Leaf, you must find them immediately and destroy them. Even if they save her again, they have no idea what kind of threat Yui poses to us and them. Before that fateful day comes, kill her. Chapter 12. The Fight. Morning came quickly. Yui watched the boys training from the window of her room all day after waking up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. She wasn't interested in it, but out of boredom and idleness, Takan decided to watch the 7th team's efforts to climb up the tree. She couldn't decide whether what the boys were doing was cool or not, because while watching, she was constantly distracted by the feeling that something viscous and painful was eating away at her from the inside. Along with this, her mental state also left much to be desired. She was reminded of that ill-fated day when the attack on her parents' house occurred about a month ago, which was mostly hidden from prying eyes and ears, and during which all the guards in the house tried to defeat the attacking bandits, who looked more like a pack of rabid animals, who wanted to appropriate the ancient family jewels of her clan. Yui remembered being stabbed with something very thin, and it was after that she began to feel inside herself at times as if something was spinning somewhere deep, causing nasty discomfort. After her victory, her parents immediately sent her to the best medical doctors in the country. After numerous visits to doctors, her parents told her that she was fine, although she clearly felt something was wrong. But Yui did not say anything, trusting her parents' words completely. Takan did nothing all day, only going downstairs twice to eat, after which she returned to the window of the room and watched. And again a new day. Sakura woke up later than everyone else. Although she hadn't exerted herself much the day before, her body was aching tolerably. She stretched out a little in bed to relieve some of the physical tension, then looked around the room and saw that she was completely alone. As if scalded, she jumped to her feet and immediately ran down the stairs to the first floor. Entering the kitchen with a swaying gait, Sakura met Yui, Azumi, and her grandson sitting there at a low table, eating homemade pancakes with gusto. And only Kakashi was sitting idle with a thoughtful face next to the others, his right hand resting on his right bent knee, and his other hand leaning on the floor. "Good morning," Haruno mumbled. She heard the same thing in response, with the same tone. Apparently, the others had woken up just like her. As soon as Sakura joined everyone, Azumi placed a cup of honey tea in front of her and wished her a pleasant appetite. And after Haruno reached out for one of the jams lying on the table, she noticed that someone was clearly missing, causing her to drop her spoon back into the bowl. "Oh, where's Sasuke? And Naruto?" "They're both meditating outside," Hatake said, distracted from his thoughts. Sakura took a few pancakes from the plate and spread them with delicious-smelling raspberry jam. "They must have been very tired yesterday." "And how are they doing?" "They're almost to the top," Kakashi informed with a slight smile. "We'll be heading back soon, so get some food." "Hi," Haruno answered, simultaneously putting a wrapped pancake into her mouth. "Not far from here, there is a bridge. The East Bridge. It will serve as a shortcut for you," Azumi informed. "It was only recently built and few people know about it, and few people walk on it." "Yes. Thank you for the information, Azumi-san." Kakashi thanked her and stood up from the table to chase the two little rivals back from the street. "Thank you for helping us, Grandma." Naruto waved his hand cheerfully to her as he left. You're welcome. Have a nice trip," the woman said as she stood in the doorway with her grandson. The 7 teams set off on their way. After walking some distance from the house along the path indicated by Azumi, everyone reached a cliff. A very deep one, almost bottomless, and the distance was endless. "Oh wow!" Naruto was surprised, standing at its edge. "How many kilometers is it?" "Where are you going, idiot?" Sakura got furious. "What if you fall?" "Huh! No one will save you!" Okay. Uzumaki raised his palms to face level, smiling to calm his partner's rage. "She's right. The surface of the rocks is very slippery, you won't even be able to hold on. In addition, considering that you only recently learned to climb trees, this task will be completely beyond your capabilities." Kakashi supported Sakura, after which Naruto sighed resignedly. Okay. Having walked along the cliff, the team, 10 minutes later, reached the bridge itself. It was wide and looked very strong and... "It's quite long," Kakashi scratched the back of his head. You can't even see the end. Are we going? Yui asked. Yes. After Kakashi's answer, everyone headed forward. Everything was quiet. A cold wind whistled faintly. Occasionally the sun flashed from behind the thick gray clouds. The sound of footsteps hitting the bridge was stopped dully near the feet. At that moment the wind suddenly increased, tousling the shinobi's hair with the blow. For no apparent reason, Yui and Sakura were overcome with unreasonable fear. Haruna looked around, scanning all 360 degrees around her. Sasuke reflexively reached for his weapon bag, just as vigilantly piercing the surroundings with the cold gaze of his black eyes. And Naruto involuntarily clenched his fists in anticipation. He felt them even before they stepped onto the bridge. The skin on his hands was covered in goosebumps from the excessive desire to cause pain and enjoy the notorious euphoria. The desire arose suddenly and was so persistent that it was not going to leave him alone. He wildly wanted the shinobi to finally show themselves. Otherwise, he would find them himself. Having passed the puddle, Kakashi already understood what was going on. After all, there had not been a single rain in the entire territory of his native country for the last few days. The stranger's chakra was rapidly approaching. And it was paired with another chakra. Hatake deliberately began to wait for the time for one of the ninja to get to him. Sensei? Sakura asked quietly and ingratiatingly, to which Hatake answered firmly. Ready. No one even had time to get a good look at the enemy shinobi before Kakashi turned around and immediately dispelled the cloning jutsu with a kunai, after which the alien's watery body flowed to his feet. Everyone froze anxiously, looking ahead. Too obvious, huh? Someone chuckled, standing behind Hatake with lightning speed and pressing a kunai blade to his throat. His sudden intrusion into the middle of the team made everyone fall into surprise. Even Kakashi. He was a man in his 30s, wearing black pants and a black t-shirt. His head was covered with a scarf with the emblem of the stone, and his face was almost completely bandaged, only his green eyes were visible. Hatake Kakashi, or rather, Kakashi's Sharingan. Sasuke frowned in confusion in the crowd. What an honor! I'm dealing with Konoha's own copy ninja. And you, apparently, are Hayashi Aoramo. I've heard about your bloody adventures. Hatake noted phlegmatically. Oh, really? I'm very glad about that, the shinobi smiled through the bandages. I think you know why I'm here. You're here. Kakashi singled out and disappeared into the smoke from his opponent's sight. And not with company? He drove Hatake Hayashi into the same trap, standing behind him and also pressing a kunai to his throat. The enemy chuckled hoarsely. How did you even notice? A short-haired ninja in a boyish purple robe appeared just as suddenly behind the rest of the team, causing everyone to turn their gazes to him every second. And who are you? Uzumaki burst out with a loud question. So what? The shinobi asked again, raising his eyebrows. Rude. Are your eyes stuck together? I'm a girl. Huh. Naruto was actually surprised. And Sakura, and Sasuke, and Kakashi and Yui too. My name is Kako, let's get acquainted. Naruto snorted indignantly and shouted again, I don't give a damn about your name. Why introduce yourself if we're going to beat you? What kind of idiot is this? Hayashi muttered angrily. Why are you hunting her? Aoramo Hatake ignored the question. There was a short silence from the enemy. Well, he muttered. Dodging the kunai that was pressed against him in the opposite direction, Hayashi aimed his blow at Kakashi's carotid artery. Sakura once again began to shield Yui from the enemy attack, as she had done last time. Naruto and Sasuke silently agreed to take on Kako. What is this cold? Uchiha tensed up. The enemy, from the water that had spread from Hayashi's water clone, with the help of numerous ki, folded in 2 seconds, erected an ice dome over Sasuke, Naruto and herself, in which crystal-clear water could be seen flowing in a circle at an incredible speed. What the? Uzumaki looked around. What is this? Kako, taking 2 steps back, entered the space of the ice wall of her own creation. This is my genome enhancement jutsu ice prison. Even having earth element won't help you defeat me. What is this thing? Sakura panicked. Yui was so frightened that she couldn't even open her lips, so Haruno never received an answer to her question from anyone. Sakura, protect our client! Kakashi's order reached her ears. As if I'm just chilling out here, she thought indignantly to herself. Do you seriously think that some brat is a hindrance to me? Hayashi grinned again in his rough and hoarse voice, making lunges with his weapon at the same time. No, Hataki replied, parrying the attacks with his kunai. She didn't. But I did. Takan and Haruno's heartbeats drowned out all other sounds around them. Awestruck panic rose in their throats. What was inside this dome? What had Ayarumo's unknown companion done to Naruto and Sasuke? Would they all be able to survive here? Tears began to flow down Yui's cheeks from the tense and oppressive situation. She could not stand aside with cold-blooded calm, because the recent events had already brought her to the brink. Don't be afraid, Yui-san! We will protect you! Haruno smiled sunnily, turning to her in half-profile. The words, of course, did not calm Takan down, and the smile did not stop her crying, but Yui, having heard what was said, was able to find the drops of will lost in her tears in order to be able to somehow control herself. The melee combat was raging. Both attacked skillfully and blocked attacks at the right time. At one point, the kunai pressed so hard against each other that both Hataki and Ayarumo had to jump back, their swords sliding on the ground, 2 meters away from each other. Against you. I will have to resort to something that I don't show to everyone. I had a feeling you would say that. Kakashi reached for his eye patch and gently lifted it, aiming to draw his opponent's attention to his left eye. But he quickly looked away to Hataki's shoulders, for the enemy was not stupid enough to fall for his tricks so easily. Sharingan! He grinned contentedly. Have I really been honored to see even the legendary Sharingan? Today is definitely my lucky day. Hayashi loudly clapped his hands together to gather chakra. Even though the remaining water from his water clone was taken by Kako to create a dome, Ayarumo had enough strength and skill to create a water element around himself out of nowhere. Element of water, water cycle. At this time, the temperature in the dome was deliberately reduced, and even the bridge underfoot began to be covered with a thick layer of ice. As long as I'm inside this dome, I'm out of reach, Kako stated, grinning. There's no way you can reach me, and all you can do is quietly die of cold. Shut up. I don't hit girls, of course, but I'll smash your ice cave to pieces along with you. Idiot, don't provoke her. All you can do is talk. Sasuke hissed, irritated by the anger he had accumulated towards Uzumaki. Naruto forced himself to remain silent and refrained from commenting. Do you have a plan? He asked in retaliation, arrogantly and with a smirk, but Sasuke didn't seem to notice the tone of his question. Water. And I have the element of fire. I think ice can be melted. Uchiha shared his thoughts. I have a fire element too, Naruto informed. Yes? Sasuke asked with a hint of disbelief. Can you create any spheres of fire? Well, I tried to do something like that after graduating from the academy, but I don't think I can do it now. Although, I can try. Uchiha smiled contentedly. Great. What are you whispering about? Kako cut off their conversation loudly. Naruto and Sasuke looked at her with piercing gazes. Apparently, she knew perfectly well that they were probably preparing an attack against her. Anything you do will be useless. You don't have enough chakra to break through the thick layer of this ice. Fire element, fireball. Ignoring the girl's words, Uzumaki and Uchiha shouted at the same time, and combining 2 fiery spheres into one, directed it towards the enemy. To launch this technique, Naruto borrowed some of the basics from the Rasengan, and created a chaotically rotating, less damaging ball. What? Sakura screamed quietly when she saw from both sides. Kakashi on her right side erected a mud wall against Hayashi's water technique, and on her left side in the dome through the ice and water a blood-red light flared up with a roar. What is this? She didn't know what exactly she should be surprised about. Yui and Kakashi were now in the same confusion, looking at the already disappearing red light in the dome with their eyebrows drawn together and serious eyes. Somewhere there, Hayashi stood in a stupor, trying to figure out in his head what it could be. Uncle! What's wrong with your eye? Takan asked in fear when she looked away from the dome and saw a real Sharingan for the first time in real life. Having drawn Sakura's attention to her proposal, she too asked herself this question with horror in her mind. But Hataki didn't hear anything. He was too excited by the chakra that had just appeared next to them all, which was so different from the hatred-filled chakra of the others. He jerked his head up, casting aside his thoughts, and suddenly felt someone else's presence besides the two enemies. Unexpectedly for Sakura and Yui, he bit the index finger of his right hand and then slammed his palm into the ground with all his might. Summoning technique. Through the thin smoke that quickly disappeared, a team of Niken appeared, wearing headbands that symbolized their affiliation with Konoha. Dogs? Yui raised an eyebrow. Pakken, quickly find the spy. Kakashi quietly ordered the main Niken, and then went to fight the enemy again. A spy? Takan and Haruna were amazed, looking at each other, and then looked around. The heat from the two fire spheres quickly dissipated outside the ice prison. The technique did not work, but it did create small cracks. The ice prison was indeed a very strong fortress. Fools! Kako said angrily from under her brows. The element of fire is weak against the element of water. To melt my ice with fire, you need to have a colossal supply of chakra. Heh, thanks for the tip. Naruto grinned. It was clear that the opponent was far from being one of those calm shinobi who controlled their emotions with iron, but was one of those who could be thrown off balance by just one simple word. Therefore, she, in fact, easily giving in to the rage from trying to get out, spread her arms sharply and wide apart, tensed her wrists, and then raised her hands up, thereby creating more than 36 ice needles around the dome above Naruto and Sasuke, which, a second after appearing, instantly rushed at them. I know that you don't have the Sharingan for granted. And if you use it for too long, you'll end up in bed for a whole week. Hayashi shouted confidently. He's right. Hataki admitted to himself. After all, he wasn't a true owner of the Sharingan, and Kakashi didn't know how to use it perfectly. But then, he could put the enemy in Genjutsu right now, but he needed the enemy to look straight into his left eye. But he actively and deftly looked away, not giving in at all. Hayashi began to fold the seals again. Kakashi, not wasting time, began to repeat his every movement, like a shadow. But one detail finally made Aoyama lose his head. And what made him lose his head was precisely the fact that Hataki not only repeated the movements exactly, but also carried out Hayashi's actions even before he did. Are you reading my mind? Aoyama's eyes rose upwards of their own accord, succumbing to the cunning provocation. The sky was covered with a scarlet canvas, so strongly reminiscent of waves of human blood. The trees turned black, and coal-colored leaves began to fall from them. What the capillaries in Aoyama's eyes grew stronger from irritation. It can't be. I didn't. You weren't looking. Kakashi finished his sentence for him. Time here is only under my control. You can't even move here at your own will. In order to resist the Sharingan, you need someone nearby. Otherwise, you'll never get out of the illusion. And it was reckless to think that you could so easily bypass contact with my left eye. Although, at first, I must admit you did it well. Devil, if you don't want to die. Tell me, who sent you and that girl here? Why do you need our client? Hayashi, like last time, remained silent. Speak. I don't think you are unconditionally loyal to your clients. Aoyama exhaled heavily and closed his eyes. Okay, he finally gave in, knowing that he had no way out, no choice. A month ago, the Takan family was attacked by bandits. Naturally, they wanted their family jewels, which cost a huge amount of money on the market. During the confrontation, these bandits had to retreat, but before that, they managed to introduce a virus into this girl's body as a sign that they would not give up so easily. Virus? Yes, a virus. An unknown virus. And on the 100th day it will actively manifest itself, after which it will be able to infect everyone around. Having learned about the acquired disease, the girl's parents began to look for medicine to cure her. But there were none in the village. Not in our village, not in the neighboring one, nowhere. So the order to kill her came quickly. They arrived together in Leaf so that the girl could say goodbye to her remaining relatives and friends for the last time. Kakashi, for all his phlegmatic nature, could not help but be surprised by the reason for Yui's murder. It turns out that her parents ordered her murder, Hataki said. Yes. Well, now you know everything. Free me. Our fight with you has come to an end, Hayashi. I'm sorry, but I couldn't leave you alive under any circumstances. What did you say? The man tried to jump up. Goodbye. The genjutsu has been dispelled. Kakashi-sensei! Sakura called out to him when she saw the pale and, as she guessed, apparently lifeless body of their common enemy fall to the ground. Something struck Kako's heart painfully. Teacher! She whispered in a sepulchral voice and slowly turned back. Teacher! At the feet of the enemy. Oh, you! Her fingers clenched tightly into fists, drawing crescent moons on her palms. To his left, Kakashi heard the barking of Niken. And here's a spy found! Ataki smiled tiredly from excessive use of the Sharingan. Naruto's chest heaved with irritation. He wanted to scream so hard that all this ice would break from his voice alone. His eyes were fixed on the Uchiha's half-conscious face. Naruto didn't even notice that his opponent was distracted by the death of her mentor, and that now was the perfect moment to attack. Why did you shield me from the needles? Uzumaki asked Sasuke, who had awakened his Sharingan and was lying in his arms, with difficulty and restraint. Why did you do that, huh? Yes, I'm myself. I don't know. Cough cough. The body itself rushed. Uchiha whispered in justification. You think I'm that worthless, huh? That much? The fingers grabbed the blue fabric near the shoulder, causing the outer clothing to tighten slightly from the Uchiha. The blood in the veins began to boil, like lava before an eruption. Naruto had no idea how conveniently the fox's scarlet chakra began to cover him. Kako had completely forgotten about her original mission to capture and kill Yui, enraged by the fact that her sensei's lifeless body lay a few meters away. At her command, the dome inside began to turn into a real freezer. Massive icicles of ice began to grow from its walls, creating a bridge under her feet with a roar. What's going on? Yui cried out desperately over the noise. Sakura and Kakashi saw with alarm in their souls once again that same scarlet light, which was now purposefully growing and growing. I'm so tired of this! Naruto winced in anger. The situation was clearly testing him, teasing him, hitting him in the most painful places. He carried all his emotions into the force of the flow of scarlet chakra swirling around him. What the? Kako was horrified, feeling the unbearably wild pain from the chakra emanating from Uzumaki's body. It was as if the demon itself was breaking out. The icy prison, unable to withstand such monstrous pressure, shattered into pieces with a crash and a multi-meter swing. Sakura, lie down! Kakashi shouted at the top of his lungs. Fortunately, Haruno managed to carry out the command and at the same time save Yui in the same way. Just as the dome fell victim to Uzumaki's emotional outburst, Kako couldn't escape her fate, her body flying all the way to the beginning of the bridge after a powerful explosion, and quietly burning there far away and alone. Naruto made his second cup disappear from sight immediately after this incident, and only then did Sakura, Yui and Kakashi raise their heads from the ground. Sasuke-kun! Haruno mumbled at the sight of the unconscious Uchiha, after which she reached the broken dome with magical speed and fell to her knees in front of him. Sasuke-kun! What? What happened, Naruto? Uzumaki, looking at his feet, said absent-mindedly, I couldn't do anything. What? I couldn't do anything. And Sasuke? Sasuke managed to break all this ice with his technique. Haruno, having listened to the end, began to frantically feel for the pulse on her neck. If only. Alive. He's alive! She hugged the Uchiha with trepidation and incredible joy, even forgetting to ask how Naruto felt. Uzumaki never once glanced in her direction during this short dialogue. And when his eyes looked ahead, he saw Kakashi standing in front of him. Ha! And here is the Sharingan! Naruto chuckled to himself. Everything is as it was written in the answer from Orochimaru-sensei. Hatake took 2 more steps towards Uzumaki, then suddenly sat down and quietly asked, Naruto, was it really Sasuke? And not you? Huh? Naruto raised his eyebrows in surprise. Sensei, what are you talking about? Kakashi continued to stare silently into the eyes of the little descendant of his dead teacher. Even though he had never taken on the task of raising the fourth son, although he could have, but did not see him as a serious threat. If Naruto was not deprived of the opportunity to be not isolated from society, then he should have been very docile. Okay, let's move on. Kakashi stood up and saw behind his back his summoning dogs, dragging the unconscious spy who had been watching the battle this whole time to him. 3 days have passed since the first serious mission of Team 7, the danger level of which was assessed by the Hokage as a little more than rank B. The spy's memories were replaced by Hataki's Sharingan, after which he was delivered by other shinobi from Konoha almost to the very border of the Land of Stone. Kakashi did not hide Hayashi's words from the team and from Yui herself. Shocked by the news of the truth, the girl did not utter a word on the way to the leaf. And Sasuke only woke up and came to his senses after a whole day spent in dreams. By now Takan's parents have probably been informed that their daughter was killed, and there is no more reason to panic. But in fact, at this time in the Leaf Village, they were actively trying to fight for Yui's life. If an antidote to the virus is not found, then no matter how you look at it, there will be no better solution than to kill her artificially. Uzumaki kept going over all of this in his head as he walked to the team's meeting place, and the memories kept bringing him back to the thought that his anger hadn't subsided with that outburst. He needed a fight again. A fight with Sasuke. "Hey, Naruto!" Sakura called out to him from the arched bridge, waving her hand. "Hello, Sakura-chan." Naruto greeted her calmly but smilingly, approaching her. Soon Sasuke arrived, and after that the team stood in silence for another 30 minutes, waiting for Sensei to arrive. "Yes, why is he always so late?" Haruno broke the silence and turned back, and as she turned back, she immediately saw the great latecomer of the entire shinobi world. "Oh. Hello to you too, Sakura." Kakashi smiled. "Sorry I'm late, I got lost again." "Yes, stop lying." Haruno was indignant. "Why did you call us?" Sasuke moved on to the question that interested everyone. It's like this," Hataki laughed. "I nominated you to take the Chunin exam." "That's it?"